to date close to $18 million. We did it in a combination of institutional investment and some VCs. Well, when we invested in you, we took a risk. We knew that you have a chance to fall on your face, but if you don't fall on your face, you're going to be the Tesla of data centers. Innovation in a lot of people's mind is actually do something that is very, very difficult. For me, the definition is a bit different. Invent something that people think is impossible, but they can use it afterwards.
Hey everyone, quick note for you. You're currently listening to the free preview of this episode. If you'd like the full thing, the full shebang, go over to our Substack. That's cleantechies.substack.com/subscribe and become a paid subscriber. Any paid subscription gets you full access to the show on the Clean Techies Substack.
Imagine writing a 100-page manifesto on your business before you raise a business, build a product, do anything. Well, that's exactly what Yuval Bachar of EdgeCloudLink Technologies did. So before we get into it, let me just establish that this is a groundbreaking version of a renewable data center. So Yuval is essentially building a new next generation data center, and renewable energy isn't just something that is a better alternative to emissions, but it allows for energy security and being able to operate off the grid. Yuval went from Cisco to Facebook, all the way to LinkedIn, where he worked specifically on data center infrastructure and saw there firsthand from some of the most relevant players how they work. After a little while, especially during the pandemic, he realized he could take the big swing and found EdgeCloudLink Technologies, or as we called it, ECL. This was a fantastic episode. We walked away just being completely amazed, and I really hope you enjoy it. As always, thank you so much for listening, and enjoy the episode. Welcome. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
You're a bit luckier right now than we are. You're not inundated in snow.
No, that's probably one of the only reasons we still live in California, right? So,
Not a big fan?
I'm not a big fan of cold. So
You made the right choice. It is very snowy in New York.
yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I'm very excited for this today. Actually, there's been some major announcements in the news like the past 2 days related to what you do. So I think this is just super topical. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So yeah, please, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, so my name is Yuval Bachar. I'm the founder CEO of ECL. In ECL, we're building the first off-grid hydrogen-based data center. And we completed the first version of our data center build-out, and we announced in September a 1 gigawatt site is going to be built in Texas, and 2025 is going to become live.
Wow, congrats.
Thank you.
New Year's resolution, get something.
Yeah, exactly. Get the data center up and running.
Yeah. So you said 3 things that probably puts you at the top of every SEO search. A data center, you have hydrogen powered. And I think the biggest thing right now is help us understand how exactly is a hydrogen powered data center different or new compared to what maybe is a traditional data center.
Yes, I think what we did is when we started the company, there's a little bit of history, we decided to actually build a sustainable data center. To do that, we made a decision that we're going to run off-grid, which means we're not connected to the power grid. And we only get a feed of hydrogen into our site. And when that happens, our site becomes zero emission and zero water use, because the byproduct that we are producing when we generate energy with hydrogen is water. So we use that water to cool the data center. So specifically with the hydrogen off-grid data centers, we are getting a data center to the point that the data center can operate independently of the load on the grid. Situation we're seeing today in the grid is that there's no power on the grid anymore. And if there will be power, it's 3, 4, 5 years out. And we have a problem right now that we have to fix. We need to build multiple gigawatts of data centers for the AI demand. And for that, running off grid is probably the only way to do it nowadays, except moving to places which we do not necessarily want to build data center in. So the major difference that we have when we're running based on hydrogen generation is that we are operating in an island mode, which is called a microgrid. That microgrid based on a hydrogen generator. The hydrogen generator is based on fuel cells. So we use fuel cells which are actually designed originally for automotive, and we're reusing them for stationary power. We're leveraging the hydrogen supply, which is very high in the Houston area in Texas. So we have multiple sources of hydrogen coming into our site to create redundancy in the supply of hydrogen. And then we deliver behind the hydrogen generation plant very sophisticated power system.
Got it.
So we eliminated completely the UPS system. We took out the diesel generators from our architecture. We're operating on a multi-active data center power feeds, and we're creating modular blocks of 1 to 1.2 as a minimum, can go as high as 5 and 10 as well.
Got it.
And then deliver them in blocks. And to our customers, we are not building one huge building. We're building blocks to the size that they want, the configuration they want. It's completely built to suit and does not have a dependency on the utilities, which is right now the blocker number one in developing new data centers is the utilities. We can't get power from the utilities.
Got it. So just to make sure I'm with you here. So if I'm Microsoft and I'm spending enormous money, 80 billion was I think the most recent announcement on data centers. If I'm looking at ECL is, your value prop compared to other data centers is here's an isolated, independent version of a data center that when traditional data centers have issues with grid load management and things like that, ECL is giving you a way of, is it retrofitting your data center or is it building a data center?
We can do both. We can do a retrofit of a data center and we can do a greenfield. The other huge advantage that we have for the Microsoft with the $80 billion is that we deliver data centers in 9 months.
Okay.
The moment you commit to say, I want 100 megawatts or 150 megawatts, 9 months later, you get a key with a data center ready for deployment.
Wow.
Compared to 3 to 4 years, which is the average in the United States today for building new data centers, if you have power. That's a big if you have the power. So that accelerates the process for them dramatically and shortens for them one thing which is very challenging in a lot of the hyperscalers, and that's the projection, the forecasting. You forecast today in large environments 3 to 4 years out. With the speed that AI is going right now and the change in technology, 3 to 4 years out is about 3 cycles of AI technology.
Yeah.
So you have to try and forecast what will happen in a generation 3 or 4 from now from NVIDIA. Very difficult. Even NVIDIA doesn't know what will be there in 3 to 4 generations. Yeah. So the fact that we can turn around the sites in 9 months gives the customer a huge advantage. So he doesn't need to look that far out. He looks, what am I going to need next year? And that's what they actually build for. And then they build another one and another one. We build incrementally because we only build to order. We don't build huge campuses and try to lease them. We build to the order. You want 50 meg? Here's 50 meg. You want 150 meg? Here's 150 meg. But when you want the other 50, just tell me. It's not done yet, but it will be ready for you in 9 months after that.
So you said something that I don't want to brush over. So you said 9 months versus, the order of 20 years.
3 to 4 years.
So 3 to 4 years. So what is the reason? Like why?
Yeah, so if you look at what is actually taking 3 to 4 years in traditional data center build out, there are multiple elements. The first element is the power and connection to the power, building a substation, etc. That is an 18 months usually cycle.
So that takes time.
Together. That's step one.
Okay.
The second step is the supply chain. Supply chain for large data centers, which means transformers, substations, UPS system, diesel generators at large sites, which are building one big structure, are in a 24 to 36 months now lead time on getting those components. Because we're building with small components, we actually can run much, much faster. And all of our supply chain is actually limited to 24 weeks. Within 24 weeks, we're getting all of our equipment on site and do the integration. Our competitors need 24 months to do that. So that's a multiplier, which is amazing from what we can actually achieve from that perspective. The additional thing is when we build modular, we can build in parallel. So we don't build one big structure. We build modules. And so if we bring 10 crews which are building in parallel, we can build 10 times faster compared to a single large crew which is building one building. So all those elements enables us to run faster. Supply chain, the modularity, the disconnect from the grid, and the simplicity and the size of what we're building. We put a data center of 1 megawatt on 1,000 square feet in today's technology. In future technology is going to be 500 square feet per megawatt.
Wow.
Which is, again, almost 10x smaller than what other people are building. If you build a smaller structure, you can build it faster.
Yeah.
And it costs you less as well.
So that gives us a good vision of also what you're building towards, right? Mm-hmm. Is getting higher energy output in less area.
Yeah.
Let's take a step back as well. So right now you are having your first
in-ground demonstration in Austin in 2025? Or when is it?
Yeah,
Q3?
so the first site is already built in Mountain View, California, in our
Oh, wow.
headquarters,
Wow.
demonstrating all the technology,
Yeah.
running on hydrogen with the cooling system, high capacity racks, the power, multi-source power system. The whole thing is proven
We
over
should have
here.
recorded there.
You should come and actually visit, of course. The site, the first large commercial site is actually in Houston, not in Austin.
Got it.
It's in Houston, Texas, and it's going to be coming live in 2025.
Got it.
We're right now in the final negotiations with our customers to do the close on the definition of the blocks, how they want the blocks to look like. And then once we get to the agreement, we actually kick off the projects. 9 months later, the site is up and running at the size of 50 to 150 right away.
Got it. Is that a retrofit or is that a build out?
It's a build out. It's a greenfield.
Wow.
So it's a greenfield from scratch. Our site is east of Houston. It's like right now it's an empty space in the middle of nowhere, and it's going to be probably one of the biggest and most advanced data centers when we finish building it.
That'll be a tourist attraction on its own.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So going from your demonstration, your functional demonstration out in Mountain View, now to commercial build out in Houston, what are some of the key things that you've learned and have implemented along the way?
Yeah. So the beauty of actually being able to actually take a block and replicate it, reduce the risk for you dramatically, because you design the technology once, you prove it once, and then you just repeat it. So repetition is very easy. I think Intel once defined it as copy exactly. So all the blocks look exactly the same. We just copy them.
Yeah.
So the challenges are becoming not technological challenges from engineering perspective, but supply chain. Can you get your supply chain to scale?
Yeah.
Can you actually get the company to scale fast enough? Can you have your operation scaling fast enough? And we are preparing for this for the last 9 months. So we are right on there waiting. Our supply chain is waiting for actually kick off the project. Our team is over here ready for that. Our construction partners are ready for that. Everything is actually ready to actually do this. And the huge advantage is when you have a site up and running, and a lot of people told us, why did you spend the money to actually build a single site, a one block? And the answer for that is that if you don't show to your customer this is actually working, if it's a disruptive technology, they will not adopt it. They will say, yeah, you can say whatever you want. I want to see it actually running. The huge advantage we have is you come over here and you see it running. You see the hydrogen running, you see the generation running, the batteries, the whole thing is running over here. And that's, again, a de-risk for the customer from is this actually real or is this slide work? This is real.
Yeah.
And we have a customer over here actually who took the site. Yeah. The site over here was supposed to be a demonstration site, and we had a customer who said, I want the site. I said, okay, you can use it.
The best case scenario.
Exactly. So we're running live traffic over here. Amazing. It's not just a artificial traffic. Live production traffic is running over here and enable us to actually show everything above and beyond. The site is full of AI platform, DGX system from NVIDIA, and we are holding some space in the data center to also start testing on the next generation when the next generation comes in. If it's the VR family or the GB family, all those families will come in here, run the test first over here, then move to production in Texas.
Climate tech founders are taking on a huge challenge. Not only do they need to know how to build a startup, but they also need to deal with hardware, have a strong handle on climate policy, know how to fundraise from diverse investor types. It's a lot.
That's why we made Clean Techies, the #1 podcast for climate tech entrepreneurs. In addition to our jobs, we devote 20 hours a week to producing this podcast for you. This way you can learn from the people who have walked the path before you, learn from their mistakes, and gain insights on navigating this complex journey. If this mission resonates with you, we are asking for your help. It takes a lot of effort and it's not free.
If you are already a subscriber and want to help, start supporting us today by going to Substack and clicking Upgrade to Paid. Thanks for helping all the climate tech entrepreneurs like you.
Yeah, got it.
So hydrogen supply chain. We've said that like 3 or 4 times. So I think it's clearly pretty important.
Yes.
Just talk me through that. What does a hydrogen supply chain look like? In theory, sounds like it is potentially easier and more resilient than a regular supply chain. So, what is a hydrogen supply chain?
So the hydrogen itself has been in the industry for a long time. So it's been used in the industry for over 50 years. Significant portion of it was used for refineries. And that's why there's such a concentration of it in Houston. Right now, what happened is that we came to the suppliers of hydrogen, and there are 3 very large suppliers of hydrogen that I can't mention their name because they will actually be upset. But 3 large operators of hydrogen suppliers in the US. And we came to them and said, you know what, we are going to build something called stationary power hydrogen-based solution for data centers. And they looked at us at first and said, what is a data center? What is a stationary power? And what exactly are you trying to do with our hydrogen?
You're speaking a foreign language to them, yeah.
And we explained to them that this is a different segment that they did not operate under before. And it's a segment which are actually going to be a very heavy consumer of hydrogen. And it's not going to be comparable to the refineries. It's going to take some time until we get to that level as the refineries. But it's a very, very large solution. And it's actually associated with a clean, fully sustainable data center, and that actually helps them with also selling their image on that. They were agreed to actually supply to us hydrogen at very large quantities into the site in Houston, and that hydrogen delivery is actually delivered to us through a pipeline. So we have a pipeline which goes across from New Orleans to Houston, and we're sitting more or less in the middle of that pipeline, but we have 3 of them. And each and every one of them can supply to us the whole site requirement. So we created in reality a comparable to a 3-grid connection data center, which do not exist in the world today. Today, everybody's looking for a dual grid feed, right? So we created like an equivalent for a 3-grid feed by the 3 hydrogen feeds. This feeds goes into the data center, and inside the data center is actually running different independent capability of production of energy. We take the hydrogen in. Our units, which actually convert the hydrogen into electricity, are fuel cell based. Like I said, they get 3 inputs of 3 independent lines, and they pick which one they want from those 3. They generate energy at very high reliability with what's called 2n+1 redundancy inside, and they also produce a byproduct of water. When you generate the energy with a fuel cell with hydrogen, the byproduct is water. What do we do with the water? We take it back into the data center and cool the data center with it.
Yeah.
So we actually take the water and cool it back in the data center. We have excess water in most cases. We also give it back to the community around us.
Yeah.
And that whole model is actually creating for us the solution. Now, what's the challenge with that supply chain? The challenge with the supply chain was 18 months ago to explain what are we exactly doing and what's the size of our business and why does it make sense for them to actually work with us. We're past that point. We have strong partnerships. We have agreements with them. We are in the final stages of doing the offtake agreements with them. We are actually very, very strong and important customer to them. And you will see in the near future some announcement coming out with them saying we're doing this and this together, and we're creating an alternative to the use of refineries with hydrogen, but using it for data centers, clean data centers. And that's wonderful for them because it justifies for them the investment they're making in hydrogen generation, and it justifies for us the ability to use. The important thing around that is when we get the hydrogen from the pipeline, we create energy at a very, very competitive price, more competitive than most of the US, and with a very low carbon footprint on it.
Is there a price that you use? Is there a price point that you pitch?
I can't tell you exactly how much it costs us to produce it, but we are less than 12 cents per kilowatt hour everywhere.
Okay.
So that's very, very aggressive. And in a lot of places in California, if you start a new business right now for data center, you're going to pay between 22 and 35 cents per kilowatt hour. And in Virginia, you're probably paying something similar to that. So 12 cents per kilowatt hour is very, very competitive.
That's half,
but it's not just 12 cents per kilowatt hour. It's 12 cents per kilowatt hour of sustainable energy with zero emission. And that's another key element, right? So we don't take power from a coal power station or a natural gas power station. When we generate energy, it's zero emission.
So is that water byproduct, is that a revenue stream for you?
So it's a possible revenue stream for us.
Okay.
So we decided to focus on the data center side and not try and sell water as wholesale. But it's actually pretty expensive water because it's distilled water. It's DI water.
Yeah.
So it's actually pretty expensive. If you sell it at wholesale, it actually sells for between $2 and $4 per gallon.
Yeah, good to know.
So you can make quite a bit of money off that. But we decided instead to use it into the data center for cooling and deliver the rest of it to our community around us. In Mountain View over here, for example, the excess water is going to actually water the golf course next to us. So there's a golf course next to us, so we give them the water to actually water the golf course. We have not started that yet because we're not producing enough at this point, but that's the goal, to actually give them the water and use it in the summer for irrigation.
So this hydrogen supply chain was unlocked because you were able to go to, some of the major hydrogen
Yeah.
refineries and say, here's the business case for entering a new vertical that you've never been in before.
Yeah.
So, to someone who probably won't be in that room, at least for the near future,
Yeah.
what convinced them? Like from your point of view, why did they say yes?
I think that three things convinced them. One, it's a vertical that they did not play in, so it's incremental to the top line.
Okay.
The second thing is when we do data center agreements, these are usually a 10 years agreement. And these companies like long-term commitments. So we reflect our customer commitment to us in the data center to our agreement with them. So they love to get a 10, 15, 20 years commitment from their customers. And data center is actually working very well for them because that's a similar aspect of how data centers are working for them. And the last thing for them is actually image. They were always associated with dirtiness because they were actually feeding refineries.
Yeah.
Suddenly they are being associated with a green, fully
clean
sustainable product.
Yeah.
It helps them.
So actually,
it took us, by the way, 18 months to break that mold around this environment, which is very, very conservative. It was very difficult to explain to them what we're doing. It was very difficult to actually convince them that it's a right business for them until we actually showed them the numbers and how much hydrogen we're using and how much revenue is going to generate for them. It became very, very attractive for them.
So you used the tool of the long-term agreement. So you did something similar to that?
Yes, exactly. So when I get long-term agreement with my customer, it's transferred to the supplier of the hydrogen.
So I'm curious. I don't know. Maybe you weren't. Right now, it's sounding like there's a bit of a chicken and the egg, right? You go to the hydrogen supplier and you say, "Hey, I can do this with you for the next 10 years." But then on the demand side, maybe it isn't fully built out yet. Or right now, are we in a time where there's ample demand and you can very confidently go to them and give them a 10-year agreement? Like, how does that?
So they like the incremental aspect because we are a new customer for them. So they need to learn how to work with us because we are 24/7, 365, and no downtime on the pipeline and all those things. That things that they actually need to get adjusted to. So they're okay with us building in an incremental way, 150 plus 200 plus 250 plus 300. They will increment our availability of hydrogen. The second thing, it also gives an opportunity to build new facilities which have a lower carbon footprint on the hydrogen as well. So we give them enough time to build additional capacity into their pipelines that we will consume. And we'll justify for them the investment because we have a commitment, long-term commitment to actually take this. So let's assume that we have a customer which buys for us phase one, 150, phase two, after 1 year, another 200. So we come to them and say, okay, commit to me to hydrogen of 150, but in 2 years, I'm going to need another 200. So start preparing for me the supply into the pipeline. So they start building this, and they're making this all green and blue. They don't do any more gray hydrogen with that because that's our ask. And that gives us, again, another cycle that enables us to make the hydrogen cleaner and cleaner and cleaner to the point that we're going to be at the optimal situation that everything is going to be green. But that's going to take some time until we get there.
Got it. So how big is the team?
So our team is a core team over here of executives and the leaders and architects of 10 people.
10, wow.
And we have an extension team in Chennai in India, which is doing the hardware projects and some of the software projects for us.
Okay.
I have about another 18 people over there, but they are on and off. They're not all full-time.
Yeah, so for the size of projects you're doing.
ECL team.
Yeah. That's a pretty agile team for the size of the project.
And that's why we can move so quickly.
And fundraising history, your financing, have you fundraised till date?
We raised to date close to $18 million.
Okay.
And we did it in a combination of institutional investment and some VCs. And we're raising right now an additional $75 million. And we're raising money for the data center itself. So $75 million we're raising right now for the topco and the engineering and everything. But we're raising $1.2 billion for the data center build-out. So it's a very large raise, but it's a different kind of raise. It's not an equity standard raise. It's a more of a real estate raise, which is a debt with GPLP, very traditional data center financing model.
Right. But the 80 million, that is an equity financing.
That's an equity finance.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. And so I'm curious, the whole concern about investing in projects with venture is timelines won't map out, risk profile is different. So for the people that joined you, came onto your cap table, invested in you, how did they get around that concern? Why do you think that they decided to use, venture as a style of investing into your company?
Yeah. So it's a very interesting question. It's why people put money into ECL, right? It's a bit disruptive technology.
Yeah.
And I'll quote one of my investors. I won't say who it is, but I quote one of the investors. When I asked them, why did you invest in us? It's like we were at the beginning. They were one of the initial investors. They were very high risk. We basically were trying to disrupt a technology of data center which was established for the last 25 years. And he told me something which I keep dear to my heart. He said, Yuval, when we invested in you, we took a risk. We knew that you have a chance to fall on your face, but if you don't fall on your face, you're going to be the Tesla of data centers. And I said, okay, I'm going to make sure that I'm the Tesla of data centers and not falling on my face. And right now, we're already at the point that we believe that we will not fall on our face. We're not the Tesla of data centers yet, but we passed the fall on your face stage. So from that perspective, so they basically believe that what we're doing is right because we're building data centers. So the important thing, and more seriously, right, when you build data centers are being built for 20 years. And we have an opportunity right now because of AI and the demand to build the data centers right and not try and rush into data centers just because we need it and build them in a bad way, because they will stay with us for 20 years. So they believe in the fact that we are building the right data center for the future and said, you know what? You're building the right data center for the future. If you get the customers to actually buy into what you're building, because it's different than traditional data centers, then you can be very successful. And that was motivated them. It motivated the institutional investments. It motivated the VCs that invested in us. And we have quite a bit of also individuals which invested in us, like high net worth individuals invested in us.
Got it.
And it's the same question: is why are you investing in us? And they basically came over here, saw the site, talked to us, talked to the team, and say, you know what? We believe in what you're doing. We believe we're going to be successful, and we believe it's the right thing. It's not, I did a lot of innovation cycles in my life. I was at Cisco for many years and built core routers over the internet. I was at Facebook and LinkedIn. And if you look at a definition of innovation, a lot of people are trying to define what is innovation. So innovation in a lot of people's mind is actually do something that is very, very difficult. For me, the definition is a bit different. Is invent something that people think is impossible, but they can use it afterwards.
Yeah.
Because we saw a lot of innovations of things that people couldn't use afterwards or didn't want to use. It was amazing innovations.
Yeah.
But they were not actually materialized. And it was always in front of us is that whatever we build, as disruptive as it is, as amazing as it is in our eyes for sure, because we are the owners of that, but in everybody else's eyes, it has to be something that people will want to adopt and want to take it and build it and build their data centers into it. And that's for me is innovation. Innovation is actually taking the impossible, making it possible, and making sure people can actually use it. And we are fortunate to the fact that ChatGPT came in 2023 and placed us exactly at the perfect time that there is a huge shortage on data center, huge shortage on power, and huge shortage on data centers which are capable to take this AI equipment, which is special data centers, they're not traditional data centers. And we're right in the middle over there. We had a really hard time raising money during COVID, right? So we raised money during COVID. It was a difficult time to raise money, but we were successful to raise money during COVID, and that placed us in a perfect spot in 2023, 2024, and now moving forward into the build out in 25, 26, 27.
So, specifically, I feel like people, love what you're doing. They believe that it's right. They believe the approach is going to work. Do you have a board?
Yes, of course.
So on this board, do any of your venture institutional capitalist investors sit there?
Yes, sitting there.
So that leads me perfectly. So I feel like one of the main issues we've heard with founders who are building hardware startups, and honestly, some projects that are way less capital intensive than yours, is that when you have a venture investor who has a say in the direction of your company, that pressure and that alignment of incentives can be off. So do you experience that? Is that a headache that you have to deal with?
I'm fortunate enough to have a board which is extremely supportive of what we're doing.
Okay.
And when I come to a board meeting once a quarter, the first question I get is not why is this happening this way or this happening this, is how can we help you? What do you need?
Great. Yeah.
And how can we actually use our connections? How can we use our influence in the industry to help you do this? They're clearly going to review what we're doing and go deep into the numbers and question everything that we do and challenge us on assumptions that we have, of course. But they basically come from a perspective is, I'm not looking for a quick exit over here. I'm looking to support you and make you a very successful company.
Yeah.
And that's the culture that we have in our board. And we have very strong people in the board. We have people which are industry leaders as well on the board, not just the investors, which believe in what we're doing.
Yeah.
And actually giving us all the support in the industry to say, you're doing the right thing over here, just deliver it.
Yeah.
And we're at the point that we delivered it. That's the beauty of this.
Yeah. Does that boardroom culture, does that come from you? Does that come from you guys? Or do you think that comes from having, good investors who aren't abusing the cultures?
When I picked my board members, you can't really pick, right? The investors just drop somebody, right? But when you set up the expectation with them, you come and say, you know what, you have to trust us. We're doing things that are very, very complex and very difficult. And in most cases, you will not understand what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because it's too complex, it's out of your domain. So you have to trust us. So give us the level of trust. What we promise you, that if there will be any yellow flag, red flag, we'll let you know. And we'll give you the opportunity to actually say, you know what, maybe you should change direction this way. Maybe you should do this way. Maybe I can help you with a connection into supplier X, or maybe I can help you there. And that was, for them, it was a cultural thing, which actually was working both ways. So it's a cultural thing that says, I'm going to be fully transparent with you. I will tell you everything that's happening. If we glitched on the hardware development in phase 1.5, or if you actually ran out of water or cache over there, or the data center went down for 5 minutes and it was not supposed to run, you'll get full transparency in this. But you'll be transparent back at me. So you give me everything that I need to support me, and support me in the difficult days and the good days. In every startup, there's good days and bad days, right?
Yeah.
And the one thing, the relationship I was able to create it on board is that I can pick up the phone in the middle of the night and they will answer the phone.
Yeah.
Because if I call them in the middle of the night, it means something is wrong and I need their help, right?
Yeah.
So they will pick it up in the middle of the night and will actually talk to me. And sometimes it's just talk to me, right? Because, it's being a CEO is a very lonely job, right? You have your team around you and everything, but the bottom line is the buck stops with you.
Yeah.
So sometimes you need somebody to talk to, which is not inside the company. Somebody who actually going to be a sounding board for you, support you, give you mental support on top of the financial support.
Yeah.
So I'm fortunate enough to have a board which is extremely supportive, and I'm really happy about that. And I think from my perspective, it's a collection of fortunate situation that we have, the timing, the technology, the AI, and my board and my team over here, which is incredible.
You're just going off the list. Yeah, 100%. I can feel that through this, even, through this screen, hopefully one day in Mountain View, just the teamwork that's going on here, right? I just honestly love to ask you, same your style, very straightforward question. Why do they respect you? Like, yeah.
So it's again an interesting question. So when I started the company, I came with a very strong background in data center build-outs. So I was in Microsoft for years, and I built the infrastructure of LinkedIn, and I built infrastructure for Facebook, and I was heavily involved in development of technology in Cisco and other companies. So I came with at least legacy of I know what I'm doing at a certain level.
Yeah.
So that gave the first level of confidence in my team, saying, Yuval is not just the official CEO, he's actually our technical lead as well. And he's actually driving our architecture and technology. And, initially, clearly it's a build out of confidence. So your team has to build the confidence. Some of my teammates over here I know for a long time, some of them were new. And when you build the confidence with them is show results. And it's, again, part of our culture in our company that everybody's doing everything, including me. And we're doing everything together, and there's full transparency. And when you give transparency to other people and you actually support them, and you have the culture, which is the right culture, we have a culture of risk-taking. We are asking people to take risks, but we also ask them to fail fast.
Yeah.
And on the first day when I came to the new office, I was just myself. I put a small sign, said, move fast, fail fast.
Yeah.
And somebody asked me, what do you mean fail fast? You want people to fail? I said, no, I don't want them to fail, but I want them to fail fast. So if they feel that they did something wrong, fail fast. And that's one of the things that I picked up from my days in Facebook.
I was going to say, this sounds like Facebook a little bit.
It is Facebook. This came from Facebook. And another item which are embedded into our culture is, what would you do if you're not afraid? It also came from Facebook.
Yeah.
It's don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to fail, and don't be afraid of anything else. Do what you think is the most innovative, disruptive things, and we will catch you if you fall. You will not fall off ever, and we will never penalize you for taking risks. Again, it's part of a very, very strong culture of we're successful as a team, and all the team always works together to be successful. If somebody is responsible for the power section, but the cooling system is not functioning properly, I don't care that the power system is actually working. You go and actually help the guys do the cooling system to make sure it's working, even though it's not your expertise, but he might need to help. He might need somebody to talk to. He might need somebody to hold the wrench for him or whatever it is. And that's the culture that we have over here. Everybody's on board and everything, from the office manager to the CFO. We're all involved in everything which is happening over here.
Yeah.
If it's engineering and if it's non-engineering. So sometimes we have decisions that we need to make which non-engineering. We make them usually as a group. And sometimes you have to take hard decisions and you can't make as a group, but we make them as a group.
Right.
And it's a very strong group and transparent. Now, a lot of people say it's your family. No, it's not your family, because you don't fire people from your family and you can't fire people from your company. But we are a very, very tight group and very, very close to each other, care about each other, know each other's spouses, have events together as a group and with our spouses. So we created this, and it took us not a short time. We created this environment of innovation is everything. We take care of people, we take care of our customers, and we make sure that our technology is perfect. And when we do that together, we're successful, and everybody in the company knows it. And we don't play politics. That's another thing that is very, very strong aspect of our culture. And politics, I don't mean Trump, Kamala. I mean politics, internal politics.
Yeah.
And we don't play politics over here. You have something to say it. Nobody will actually ever penalize you or anything on what you said. If you have a problem with your manager, come talk to your manager's manager. Always talk to people. Open communication. That's the only way to operate. If you start playing politics, and I told it to my co-founder when we started together, you play politics, I'll fire you the next day. I said, what? He said, yes. I don't care that you are a co-founder with me. I will fire you the next day, because I lived through a toxic environment, which is very political, and I know how bad it is. And I didn't want to have it in here, and we're fortunate enough not to have it over here.
Yeah. And how did your co-founders take that?
Yeah, we all feel that you can say whatever you want, and you can sit in a brainstorming session and say, I don't think this is right. I think you are actually talking nonsense over here, and here's why I think that. And that's completely okay to say that, because if the other side has an answer for that, he will answer for you, and you will actually be convinced. We always move with one power forward, and we make decisions. But once we make decisions, we move forward. We don't look back. One of the issues that you can see in engineering is you've been in a discussion, a large audience discussion, and they did not pick your solution. So continuously you try to actually bring your solution back to the table. Over here, we don't have it. We sit together, we deep dive on the details to the lowest level. We make decision together. If it was your idea or no idea, everybody moves forward. And again, this is the only way for a culture like that to be successful, because otherwise things start to break out, because like I said, it's a startup. There are good days and not so good days. Yeah. And if people are not tied together, it can actually break sometimes. Going back to what is innovation, taking an impossible problem to solve and building something that people can actually use. I built a business plan of over 100 pages before I actually did a single action. Everything was in the business plan, from the company culture to the business to all the business analysis.
Thanks for listening so far. To get the full episode, go over to Substack and become a Clean Techies premium member by selecting any paid membership. Not only will you get access to hear the rest of this episode, but you'll get access to exclusive interviews, our monthly show, the best, most relevant insights from our shows, and access to our premium community.